Okay, for all of those, Nancy was telling me she couldn't see me, so I rebooted here. We will see if there are comments. So I have never, I don't know, maybe I did a Facebook Live years ago, but I usually do Zoom, and this is a new one, and I'm just going to say right off, it's been a little bit tough with computers the last couple days, so not just here, but in everything that I'm doing. So we'll wait and see if anybody's watching, and let me know if you can see me. I can see and hear you, says Michelle. Hi, Michelle. I saw Jennifer. Hello, Jennifer. This feels like so cool. Hi, Lori. Okay, they can hear me. Can you see me? Well, that's not as important, I guess. So, Dina, it's been a long time since I've seen you. Rose, Jill, Jennifer again. Hello. Okay, we'll just wait for a few minutes, and I'm going to talk. And I have Nancy on my phone next to my computer because we were trying to get her on this live also. So that didn't work out in our test yesterday, but she's going to be here on the phone, and let me know if you can hear her. So Nancy, say something, and let's see if everybody can hear you.
Hi, I can hear you over the phone, but I still can't see you. I can't find the live page on this page.
Oh no, maybe it's because you're on your phone. I don't know how that works. Maybe it's because you're on a call.
There you go. So now I found you.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. Judy, Jennifer, lots of people I know. This is so fun. Yes. Dina, I know I saw you in California, I think, way back maybe 2 years ago. So there we go. We'll just let people come on. Hi, Sue. I've been working with Sue lately. Leslie. Hi, Leslie. Our former wonderful administrator who turned over all of her duties to Nancy, our new administrator. So we love our wonderful administrators who have really caretaken this site over the years, and so much appreciate all that they have done, because clearly not my forte. So anyway, we'll see. So as people are coming on here, I believe this will stay up on Facebook for a while, if anybody knows about that. And what I'll try to do is get it posted somewhere like my YouTube channel, and I'll give you that information at the end. And we'll keep going. Okay. So, Nancy, do you want to take it away for a minute and introduce yourself? And
oh, goodness. Sure. So yeah, my name's Nancy McMurtrey, and like many of you, I discovered Dr. Susie on Warwick Schiller's podcast, and I listened to that podcast, and it just really struck a chord with me right away, and I just knew that I had to reach out to her quickly because she was going to get booked up. And so I don't know, did I call you or email you or?
You're asking me to remember how many years ago? 2020 maybe? 4 years ago?
Yeah, it was, yeah. And so I reached out to you right away, and we talked for like hours right off the bat, and I was like, this is who I've been looking for. This is awesome. And and that just kind of started my journey, and and it has been a journey, right? It's definitely confronting and requires growth and searching, and I wouldn't have it any other way. It's been a beautiful journey, and I'm very, very grateful to call you my friend.
Absolutely. And I think that's what's important here on Sacred Spaces, and what my goal is with that. If you know me, I don't usually have goals, but my goal is that we create community of like-minded people that support each other and not go back and forth and argue about the point of one thing or something else. I am just here. I want to really keep that focus on the conversation and the relationships with each other, and really learning from those relationships how we take them forward into those that we have with our horses, because so many of the same principles as far as relationships and all of that apply equally across the board, whether it's a human or an animal. So I've noticed as I went through life that I didn't treat my animals different than the people in my life, that I would have conversations with them just as I did with a human. And I think that really solidified a lot of things. And again, that's really my focus here with Sacred Spaces, is the conversation, the communion, and the camaraderie that we share with each other as we go down this journey. And as Nancy just pointed out, this is not necessarily an easy journey. And I'm not just I wouldn't say just a horse trainer. I started as a horse trainer, but I feel like Sacred Spaces is so much broader than that. It's about everything that we do in our life and how we live our life. And
yeah.
Right, I mean, have you found that some of those things have really trickled over into your life with your family?
Yeah, absolutely. I have two young boys. I've got a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old, and then I've been married for 20 years, and we've been navigating a lot of stuff, and both of my kiddos came to us through adoption, and so I've been reading tons of books about how to be a healthy and happy family, and how to approach that, and how to be a powerful person. And it's been funny because I would be reading these self-help books and these parenting books, and then I would talk to you about it, and I'd be like, but this is what you do with your horses. And you would just keep saying, yeah, I treat my horses, my relationship with horses are just as healthy as my relationship with people, right? They don't get a different set of rules. A healthy relationship is a healthy relationship. And, whether it's with your animals or with, the people in your life, those principles are true. And I think that's what I love about truth. It's that it's constant and it's consistent, and it doesn't matter, where you find it. If it's truth, it's going to remain truth.
Absolutely. And, Sacred Spaces, again, that's our foundation for everything is our relationships, whether they're human or animal. And so I really focus first on making sure we have a close relationship and communication with our animals, because without that, we're going to be struggling to get anything done with them or to reach them. And Nancy can probably speak to this too, as far as her family is if somebody has a lot of trauma, you can't reach them through that a lot of times. That is a distraction for them. It clouds everything. It clouds their perceptions. It clouds how they feel. And so, those are those other parts of Sacred Spaces, is we've got to clear out ourselves, and we've got to help our animals find a way through some of the things that they've been through, and to find a better balance and a happier internal life for them too.
Absolutely. Well, and I realized that on my own journey here, I think probably another important thing is when you and I first started talking, you told me to go get a therapist.
So sorry.
And I listened. I did. I was like, okay. And I found this amazing therapist that I love. And, so I've been really on this journey of, building, becoming a powerful person, and what am I holding on to, and what am I bringing into the different areas of my life. And I don't, everything that I've done with my journey with you has been essential in me becoming the person that I'm becoming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I want people to know, sometimes I wouldn't consider myself a public figure, but somebody that's out there dispensing information to others, that sometimes we put them on a pedestal, or we have expectations for them that are oftentimes unrealistic, because we think, oh, well, they don't ever have any problems, or they don't suffer from this, or they don't suffer from that, and that's not true at all. It's that we all have our struggles through life, and what I'm finding is that I may have times when I'm down for a little bit, but I can go back to some of the principles that I teach others and say, oh, well, those will work in this situation. And I know I can get through it because I've got some tools here. And those same tools that we use for resetting ourselves and getting back into who we are and into some internal balance, both mentally and emotionally and spiritually, apply to our horses as well. That's what's really fun about the work that I do, is seeing how all the psychology that I learned can be plugged right into my relationships, and how I handle horses that have difficulties and challenges in their lives, and how I can help them get through. And I saw one of the questions that went through is, do you talk to your horse or ask them questions just like you would a person? Yes, and it seems a little odd for some people when they watch me ask a horse a question, and if I wait long enough, if I pause, that horse will answer me. And it's not in the way that we think. Maybe I don't think of it as being answered like I would hear human words as a response. But if you train yourself, you can begin to feel the answer, and you can see a little bit of changes in the horse. Very minute sometimes. Horses sometimes not real, they're a little hesitant to speak, because I've asked horses questions sometimes, and they stood there for a while with their eyes open. What? Did you ask me something? And they're looking around like, I think she was talking to me, but I'm not sure. Should I say anything? And it's such a cute expression, and you ask it again, and they go, I think you were. And I always tease that after we're done with the session, the horse goes back to his paddock or his stall, and he tells the horse next to him, he says, you're not going to believe this. Today I had a human communication. Like when we spontaneously have an animal communication. I think I heard my animal speak. So I just think it's really cute. And when we start having real conversations with our horse, it's really, you see them blossom with that. And I don't talk to them, I just talk to them in my usual way that I talk as a human. And somehow they interpret that, and they talk to me back in the way they talk as a horse. So neither one of us has to change who we are to have this conversation. We can be a human, they can be a horse. And we can have this beautiful conversation together. And this is what energizes me with the Sacred Spaces work that I do, that is how profound it can become when we realize they've been listening all along. Yeah. They've been hearing us. And we just forgot to answer. And that's my biggest kind of takeaway, especially recently, is how much they want to converse with us. How desperately they seek a relationship with us, just as much as we seek one with them.
Absolutely. I see Erin is asking, how did they talk back to you as a horse? Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, how do they talk back to me?
It's a valid question.
It is a very good question, and I love that question, because and I think this just depends on you. There would be people who are animal communicators that say, I just receive a bunch of words, or I see pictures, or something like that. It can be any number of ways that horse speaks to me. But for me personally, I have a knowing, and I can't say that sometimes I might hear one word or something like that, but the richness of the conversation is in a place where no words are required, actually. So I think it's on another, I wouldn't say dimension, or a different place. So if we're only looking for the response and waiting for some kind of human word from the horse, we might get disappointed. Some of us may be able to get it that way. Maybe our translation device is a little bit different than other people's, but mine is not that. Mine is a knowing, deep knowing, a feeling internally And when I walk people through, there's some different exercises, and one of them is a body scan. And I've been doing this for such a long time that I scan my body every time I take a breath in and out, and I ask myself, what just changed? What just changed inside me? Because I'm picking up energies from the environment around me all the time, and that's what I'm having to do, I think, at some point, is translate that energy into my human way that I understand things. And this gets out to some esoteric place, and why it's so difficult to teach sacred spaces principles, because there is no one size fits all. There is no thing. If I told you, well, you're going to have to get it the same way I do, you might get discouraged because you may never get it that way. So, you have to kind of let go and just, when you're really present, your body will start to speak to you, and you'll start hearing voices. No, you're going to hear voices. No. Then they put you in a different place. So, they take you away to a different place. But no, it's one of the things that when I talk at my gatherings, people ask me a question, well, what about this? What about this? And I think, well, I just need to get a prop that's a package of depends, and it's like, well, it just depends. Here's a question where it depends. There's so many factors that we're going to have to look at, because we can't just give a one-size-fits-all answer. That's kind of the old horsemanship, maybe you can think of it. How do you get your horse to do this thing? Well, here's the step 1 through 10 or whatever. Doesn't work that way here.
Well, I think that's one of the amazing things about what you do is it's about getting connected with yourself and getting connected with your horse and getting connected with the force that moves between the two of you. It's all about connection and then trusting what comes out of that connection. Mm-hmm. And that was really a big deal for me. I didn't grow up with horses. I didn't start riding until after I was married in my early 20s. And, I was one of those girls that always dreamed of horses, and my parents were both from LA. So I didn't have I did not learn how to ride until I was an adult. And so I always had this thought that everybody knows more than me, and I shouldn't trust myself. I shouldn't trust my gut. If I'm feeling something and somebody else tells me that I'm wrong, I'm going to trust them, not me. Mm-hmm. And I, through this work with you, I'm learning how to trust myself and to listen to myself. And in a lot of ways, I'm a very intuitive kind of person, and my parents are very, very practical. And in a lot of ways, I've never really felt like it was okay for me to lean into that intuitive part of myself. We just lost your video, Susie.
No, you didn't.
Uh-huh.
Oh. How could that be? Because I can still see me. Maybe it's only in my imagination.
Well, I don't know. Can you guys still see it?
Let us know if you can still see me and hear me. Because nothing changed on my end. Unless I blew out the internet again.
You do this.
I'm good at it. It's not a skill set that I want to be good at, actually.
Okay. Well, Heather said that the
video's fine for us. Okay. So it's your problem.
It's my problem.
See?
Okay. That is a theme.
Okay.
Everything that we've worked on, when I'm like, Susie, my horse is doing this. And then it turns out that it's not my horse's problem, it's my problem. So I think that is a reoccurring theme with my work with you.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I think part of this work, whether it's good or bad, is if something's going wrong, I'm always going, what am I doing? What am I doing? What do I have to change in my energy? What did I just do?
But that's the thing is, your energy is great. I don't want anything to change in your energy.
Well, there's times, and I think this is a good time to talk about energy and what happened yesterday with the test run, and it was a very strange day with the energy, and I'm sure you've probably, if a lot of you follow Warwick, and there's a lot of his guests that talk about the impact of people that create different frequencies, and they can also often interfere with electronic equipment. And me specifically, anytime I try to do something on the internet that's a bigger thing than just my usual small groups or individual sessions. You know, last year I had this debacle where I, planned this big thing and, everything went wrong. And there was nothing wrong. I had gone through it a bunch of times and made all the tests and made sure I had enough Zoom credit, upgrade to that so I could have a boatload of people come on, and no, it didn't let them do it. And could never figure out why, because I went back, it's like I paid for it, everything was set up right. So it's just one of those odd things that happens in the energy world. So one of the things that I have to do is really moderate my energy when I'm doing these things and make sure that I'm pretty chill, okay? And not too chill. So I told Nancy before we came on that I did a little group class last night, and it was set up just like normal, and I took some people through a guided meditation type of thing, and I know that I went really deep down into probably theta brainwave, really, really deep. Do you think the recording did not work? So we're going to try it again one of these days, but I have to be really careful on that, because I think I may have talked about this with my first interview with Lloyd Schiller, is that I went to my dad's house because I wasn't sure about my internet and I didn't want anything to go wrong, nothing go wrong, So I've always got all these contingency plans just in case this happens. I've got another backup. So I took with me 4 computers, plus my iPad. I had my cell phone, and I had my dad's landline plugged in. I went through all of them. They all went down during this interview. And I'm on this on his landline, which had been 100% charged, and it lasted all of 5 minutes, maybe, before it started beeping and went out. And I remember him saying, "You're not that good at technology, are you?" And I'm like, "You don't understand the challenge." So it is real. We'll see this often if I'm doing a session with a horse and we get a lot of stuff happening. Whether the horse is, for example, the horse may be doing a lot of trauma release, and the other day I was doing one and I could feel the horse was about ready to let go, but all of a sudden on my Zoom camera came up a program I have never even heard of, and it just took up the whole screen and blocked me from seeing anything, and then it went blank. And then I called back the person. She goes, "Oh, after you went away, he was having all sorts of releases." So what it's telling me is that horse didn't want to have that filmed. He didn't want to be seen while he was doing that. And this is kind of a nice little added benefit of the energy and all that, is that it does protect the horses, because I have that as an overall intention, that I'm going to protect the horses when they're doing that kind of stuff.
Well, I love your work is so respectful of them. All the self-help book stuff that I've read, like the 7 Habits for Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Like, one of the habits is first seek to understand, then to be understood. And I feel like that's how you approach everything with the horses. Is it's, I'm gonna find out what's going on with you, and I'm not gonna ask anything of you until I know where you're at. And I just think that is such a unique approach in this world, because we all have our agendas and we have our things that we want to accomplish, and I feel, I have a tendency to always start with what I want, and this has been a huge paradigm shift for me, and it's like I said earlier, it's one that I'm carrying over into my family more, because I'm more aware that I have a tendency to just try to do what I want to do without actually building that connection first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't know what I was going to say. There was something that was going through my mind that I wanted to point out with
Oh, sorry.
No. It just, you didn't interrupt anything. It just started to spark something that I thought was going to be important to talk about as far as energy. And sometimes what I think is that when something has a quiet energy, and I think Aaron asked this question just a few minutes ago about how long do you wait? And we're so used to, in our conversations with people, we're just there waiting for our opportunity to say our thing. We're not used to taking a pause and considering what that person said and thinking about it deeply. And this is when you're talking to a horse and you ask a question, you can't have the answer show up just like that. That horse is going to ponder that question you asked. And you've got to wait for an answer. And the answer can come in a whole bunch of different ways. Again, like I will get it internally feeling. I might see expression change on them, a very, very minute changes in their body language, like an ear flick or they blink. A lot of horses do like Morse code with their eyes with me when I ask them a question, and they'll start blinking, or they'll actually do a nod, which is really fascinating to me. But there's so many varieties of ways that a horse can answer a question. But the more you wait, and you just in that waiting, you go present and you observe. And you're going to
find that if I am anticipating something specific, then I block it from happening, right? Like I have to become somebody who's ready to receive whatever the answer might be.
Yeah. And part of the sacred spaces is learning to wait, learning to pause long enough, because there was some old horsemanship in the way I learned. It's like you count to 3, and if they haven't answered you yet, you better be on them. You better be correcting whatever it was that they didn't answer. And 3 seconds is not long enough. By any means, it's not long enough for a horse to consider something. So I want to emphasize that of all the things that I do, the pause is very important. And even in human conversations, I've noticed a lot of times that I'll be in the pause and then somebody will just go over the top of me. Like, oh, well, you weren't going to say this or you weren't going to do this. And we get in such a habit of not giving other people time to formulate. And this is one of the things that happens when you're an introvert, is that you consider things longer. And I know for me, it was, especially back in the days when I didn't talk, like high school. Hi, Kristen, there's my sister-in-law, Kristen Skaugard Green, yay. That when you're an introvert versus an extrovert, these are some of the differences, is that extroverts are there and they speak, and they're kind of, and this is on a spectrum, they speak quickly, but they don't spend a lot of time analyzing what they're going to say, because they're very doer, be out there, respond quickly, do all that. And this is where one of the problems that I found when I was in, my professional career as an environmental scientist, I would always, we'd have something to ponder there at a meeting, and I'd be there thinking of all the possibilities. And by that time, the conversation had already gone to some other place, and I didn't have my answer formulated yet, because I was in there thinking about all the things, and then, missed that chance. And again, there's that pause. If we pause and we know someone is someone that considers a lot, it helps if we pause and give them time to formulate their answer and think deeply about it. And that was always my thing. But wait, I'm thinking deeper level than, what the really fast response was sometimes. It's like, well, yeah, that could be part of it, but you didn't consider this and this and this and this. And I think horses are more like how I would have been, where I ask them a question and I can see them go into processing that answer. There's a very distinct expression that they have on their face when I see them go into the processing of a question I ask. And
well, this happened just the other day when we were working with my mare, and you asked her a question. Well, first of all, she showed up for the lesson she showed up right away. She was standing right there at attention, and there was hay in the round pen, and she didn't want any of it. She was like, Susie's here, and I'm here to show up. And then, we got deeper into it, and you asked her that one question, and she walked off, about 5 feet, but she stayed very connected. You could feel the connection was still there, but she walked off about 5 feet because she wanted a little bit of space to figure it out herself.
Mm-hmm.
And she really thought about it. You could just see her working through that question, and it was profound. When you're watching that, there's no, you can't unsee that.
Yeah. And these are things, a lot of people are asking how long for pause, and how do you know when to ask the horse a question after pausing. These are all things that I think you have to watch me do it a few times for it to really start to get into your conscious mind, that first we can talk with them and ask them questions, and that they'll actually answer us. And how long do we pause? When you do
sessions with us, you ask the question out loud.
Yes, absolutely.
And so I hear you ask the question, but the funny thing is I have you on a Zoom call, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they watch the camera, and they it is crazy. They'll go and touch their nose to the camera and be like, "Hey,
I know.
I'm so glad you're here."
Uh-huh.
It really is crazy.
And with Haley, do I ask questions in my mind or out loud? I'm usually in a teaching mode when I'm asking questions so that people will see, but usually what happens is the horses answered it before it came out my mouth. So this is what's interesting about energy when you're talking. It works at lightning fast speed, and the horse is already doing the thing that I'm trying to verbalize. So they've already gotten my thought, and once they understand that I'm having conversation, they get really fast at it. And so you don't even have to speak out loud. I do it just because, again, I'm in a teaching mode, and here's this thing, and I'm trying to show people, here's what I'm getting, so that maybe they can start to say, oh, I felt that too. It's one of those other depends questions. How long do you pause? It depends on the horse. It depends on what that question was and what amount or degree of processing that horse had to do with that question. What is their response, and do they need some extra help? Is there another question I need to ask? These are all, it's quite, I don't think I could explain it here.
Art. It's how do you paint a masterpiece? And it's it's not a color the numbers in, right? It's a process, and you feel it, and it happens while it's happening. There's, and I don't know, I think that's why I love it so much, is because it feels real.
Mm-hmm.
It's not manipulated. It's you get to step into the flow of life.
Right.
And you're not making anything happen. And it's been huge for me because, I always approached life, I kept myself safe with control. Control was how I kept myself safe. That was the main tool that I was taught. This is how you protect yourself from, life and all the bad things that can happen, is you control everything, and you never actually have control. You just have the illusion of control and a lot of anxiety.
Yes.
And this has been very life-changing for me, because I'm learning that safety does not come from control. Safety comes from connection.
Absolutely.
And can I stay connected with myself? Can I stay connected with my source? Can I stay connected with my horse and with the people in my life? It's all about that connection.
Yeah, absolutely. And it seems like in the past, maybe I'm wrong, because all of our past memories are they're reconstructed, they're elaborated, they're not true, but it just seemed like before technology came in, and this is just an example, I used to, when I was a child, every weekend we would go to my grandparents, and well, at that time my great-grandparents' cabin on the lake up in the mountains, up in near South Park, the infamous South Park, so that explains a lot. And we would spend the whole weekend there and have big family dinners and aunts and uncles, and there was fishing, and there were walks around the lake, and there were walks to look for arrowheads, and nobody had a cell phone, and we all communed in that really special place every weekend in the summers. And those are some of the fondest memories of life, is those conversations, those connections, those communions that we had. Okay, so it doesn't happen. It's like we've lost our ability to converse in a normal way. You know,
well, we've just become so disconnected, right? Like looking at the history of, like, I feel like we, you know, many years ago, we used to be a lot more connected with nature.
Mm-hmm.
And now through like convenience and we've become just very disconnected, and we're disconnected from ourselves even.
Absolutely.
And I feel like so many of us just feel this call and this pull to return to what's real, right, and to what's true, and in every aspect of our lives.
Absolutely. And I think that's why a lot of us get horses, is because we're looking for that deepness of the connection and communion. And unfortunately, we put expectations on those relationships sometimes that the horse can't meet. And so learning how to commune in a really natural way, that you can bring something of value to the horse in that relationship, that it's not just about control, like you say, and that feeling of safety with control. And not to say that you don't need really good horse handling skills. I spent a whole lot of my life acquiring horse handling skills. And luckily, I'm still here in one piece and never had a problem, because I had good horse handling skills, good riding skills, good awareness skills. You know, that was really critical to my safety, especially out on the ranch, that I have good awareness skills. And that's probably because I lived in a very quiet environment there with not a lot of technology or other distractions other than the natural world around me, that I could really tune in and actually not be as distracted. And, you know, when you were saying, do you long for all of this? I have times when I'm out on the internet and doing this kind of stuff, although this feels pretty good, where I'm torn between two worlds, where there's a part of me that would say, yeah, I would love to be a hermit, and I would just close the door and it'll be so serene here in my space, in nature with my horses. But then there's that other part of, why are we here?
Yeah.
And do we have a purpose beyond ourselves? Because for me, that feels like, well, that would be selfish then. It would be glorious, but at the same time, it would be a bit selfish. If I had something of value to offer, that maybe I should get. Was it you? I said, I got to put my big girl pants on. No, it was Jen Siggety, my other client. It's like, I guess I got to put my big girl pants on and get over it. You know? So I have big girl pants, and I've been filling them out lately. So, you know, that's not a good thing. But, you know, sometimes we have to stretch.
It's a hard thing to put yourself out there, I think, in general. But I think, you know, with this, like, this is something that is truly sacred to you. And so it's not just about putting you out there. It's putting something that's very sacred to you out there. And can be hard to do.
Yeah. And, and especially coming from where I've been in the past, if anybody knew me, maybe Kristen, who was on here, knew me, and I didn't talk a lot in the past, and I was pretty quiet and kept to myself a lot, and for me to be in this space doing this kind of stuff is so outside what I ever thought I would be able to do. And really the only reason I can do it is because in my mind I say I'm doing it for the horse. And that gives me the courage. And as I step into that courage, then I get more comfortable in that space. And I'm going to be honest, yesterday's little debacle with the technology, it kind of plunged me for a moment into maybe this isn't what I should do, and maybe I'm not good enough to do that. Those things you say, it's like, am I good enough to be out here doing this? Is this what, should I do this? But for the people that have touched me and the people that maybe I touch, and definitely the horses that I touch, make it good to get up every morning.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, do you have anything that you wanted to touch on tonight that we didn't go over? I think we got off on some other
Well, and I think that's kind of what we wanted to do. We thought if you had someone to chat with, then it could be more of a conversation.
Right.
Because like you and me will have these conversations, we'll be like, that was really good, we should have recorded that, but we never do, so here we are.
I know, here we are doing it. And Barbara asked if she could ask a question. There's been some questions coming through, and we'll just see if we can answer them. If you type them in, we'll see, because it scrolls pretty fast through there, so if it's something I can answer, I'll do that. And especially anything related to kind of our conversation today. But when I was looking forward to this conversation, because I know yesterday when I was doing it, it's very odd to watch yourself talk.
Yes.
And
talk, right?
Oh, it feels very awkward, and so to have a conversation makes it so much easier to, because otherwise I'll just ramble on and not, whatever, the way I do. So do baby horses have to learn to talk?
Yeah.
Oh, Emily had a good one. No, I don't think they do. I think they come ready and willing to talk. They're very connected at that time. And an interesting note on that is when I was on the ranch and my mares were in foal, every day I would go out and put my hands on their sides and I would talk to the baby.
Aww.
So, yeah, because I thought, well, maybe it works the same way as human mothers who listen to music or talk to their babies and have good feeling, that you could say, gosh, I can't wait to meet you, and it was beautiful. I missed that time, because those baby horses are the most pure they'll ever be when they're born, and before they get messed up by the world and humans. And
isn't that true with us too?
Oh,
though?
It's absolutely. If we didn't get messed up, can you imagine?
Oh my gosh. So when we did that guided meditation together, and we went and found like little me when I was young, and I had stuffed myself in a closet because I couldn't control the young child version of me,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that is, somebody else had said on this on a comment that it feels like they're coming back to their 15-year-old self,
Mm-hmm.
and that place that you were before the world told you that everything you experienced wasn't real.
Yeah.
You know? And, like, we both need this, you know, like the horses need it and the people need it. Like, this has just been so huge for me. I know that somebody has asked multiple times, how do you prepare yourself to talk to horses?
Okay.
Do you want to talk about
that? And then we're going to get to Barbara's about how does it complement positive reinforcement training.
Oh,
so
yes.
I want to go on both of those because they're pretty fascinating questions. So tell me that one again. And
so how do you prepare yourself to talk to horses?
And one of my foundational things is I'll do the breathing, and a very specific way of breathing that facilitates us getting into a very an alpha brainwave, very present, very relaxed, and in that space is where I talk. But that's also the space now because I practice that so long that that's really how I am all the time. Well, I don't want to, the airport, some people, to the most that I can do it, I try to stay in that space all the time, because I think it's where we as humans were naturally supposed to operate. And just like if you watch, observe wild horses, is they're out there doing their thing, and then something scares them, they take off, and then they re-regulate really quickly back down.
Yeah.
Okay. And we've messed up our stress response systems so badly in humans, for most of us, and it's dysregulated to the point where some of us don't even know if we're stressed or not anymore. We think we're fine and we're totally stressed out. So
you mean this isn't normal?
It's not normal. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So Karen was asking, Karen was, I want to do some guided meditations. Nancy and I are working on trying to get up on Kajabi, and that will give us a little more flexibility to do some classes and guided imagery.
So it's classes and coaching
and different things like that, and give a whole lot more possibilities for that. And I just have to tell everybody, I did not do a 5-year plan for this. I was not planning on this at all, to be in this place. So I have nothing in place, because I'm like, whoa, this is a surprise, for 50 years of my life, nobody listening to me. And then, oh, what do you mean? Okay. So I'm kind of in the backtrap trying to catch up. So that's that. And back to, I just want to touch on it before I forget to, about the positive reinforcement. I do that, but my reward is energetic rather than physical. But the horse, I still do positive reinforcement a lot. If anybody watches me working with the horse, they will not deny that I'm totally positive reinforcement. And it just looks a little different, and it's working in a little different place in the brain, I think.
Well, and what you did with my horses is you found out like what emotion and what feeling, what energy did they want to feel that day.
Yeah.
And then you would model that for them, and then they would like walk right over and put their head like right there. They're like, "Yep, that's what I want."
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it's a deeper connection than any kind of like treat reward that I've ever experienced.
Yeah. And Judy was like, "Be the cookie." Yes, you are the cookie. You are the cookie.
Yes.
And you can be the cookie. And this is a hard concept. I know a lot of people have had a really hard time getting to that place because this cookie is invisible, at least to our eyes. If we don't see energy, it's invisible. So people would go, "Well, you're not doing anything." Yeah, I'm doing a lot. And it's impacting this horse, but at a very deep level, but you can't necessarily see it with your human eyes. So I always use the term non-eyes. My non-eyes are seeing it, seeing it. Because that refers to how am I in my other senses observing what's happening. And again, this takes practice, and if you want to practice on it, there's ways to get there. And I went the long route, the really, really long route. Now there's so much information out there for people to find answers quickly and practice with stuff. And back in the day, I think I started about 12 years old. I was really fascinated with with the brain and how the brain works and how do we maximize our potential with that. And there wasn't a lot of information back then.
Yeah.
And, you'd have to go to the microfiche at school, at the library, or you didn't have easy access to information like that. And now we do. And so it accelerates if we want to progress, if we want to evolve it really accelerates the process. So, yeah.
I see people asking questions about visualizing.
Okay.
And my own, experience, when I first started visualizing, I was just using it as another way to try to control the horse. I know and I still have a tendency to I'll find myself kind of going back in that direction. So you kind of want to talk about the difference between visualizing and suggesting versus just trying to use it as another halter that you use to haul the horse in,
Right. Another manipulative tactic to coerce the horse into doing what you want it to do.
It's so easy to go back there.
Oh, it's so easy. And, we're just programmed as accomplishers, as humans. It's that's how we've been taught our whole life is
I want to get it done.
You get it done. And then you're praised because you got it done. And the person that got it done the fastest.
Positive feedback I ever got in my life. You got it done efficiently. Good job.
Yes, right. And
we're now a valuable person.
Yes, and we have put our value on that. And how hard is it to break that habit of, well, that's how we operate. And some of us operate at that level unconsciously. So really, as far as a visualization goes, it's very interesting that I started visualizing what I was going to do versus what the horse had to do in response to something. I would visualize what I was going to do, and then I will watch the horse's response to that and see if I need to make any adjustments. But I don't say you have to put your foot here and put this foot there and do that. No, I visualize, again, I set up a situation for the horse to come into alignment with my energy and what I'm doing. And I think this is more how a wild horse, a leader in the wild horse herd does. He doesn't say, hey, y'all, we're going to have a meeting today about when we're going to take off here, and does anybody have a problem with that? No, the leader makes a decision, and you either follow it or you probably get eaten.
But that connection has to be there first.
Right.
And one of the classes, it was a parenting class that I took, and they said that you cannot have a conversation with your child that exceeds your connection with your child.
Absolutely.
And I found that was so profound. And again, it's truth. And so if it's true in every aspect, right? You put it
Absolutely.
in all the different scenarios, and it remains constant. And it's, and I feel like it's like that with the horse. And, I had to work at trailering with my horse for quite a while. And now she gets in, but I had to and she'll get in softly, and she'll stand in, and she'll wait for me. And she does it because she's connected to me. She still doesn't love the trailer, but she gets in the trailer because she asks me, and I say, yep, we're going to go somewhere. And so she says, okay. And she does it for me.
Yeah.
It's a connection thing. And, she's the kind of horse that if you do, the pressure and release thing, you will never get that horse in the trailer.
Right.
I actually, a year and a half ago, I was at a friend's house. I had her at a friend's house. And, it's one of those situations where you have a lot of pressure, and they're like, let's just do it this way and it'll get done fast. And you cave and you say yes, and you do it that way instead. We were there for 4 hours doing this pressure and release with my horse, and we never got her in. I left her there and came back the next day to get her. And I just did it your way, where I was like, I just need to connect with her, wait for that connection to happen, and then she will get in with me. And it took me 15 minutes, and I had her in the trailer, and I brought her home. And I felt like, I felt so bad because I had put both of us through this whole ordeal simply because, I caved. I totally caved.
How many of us have caved before? No judgment on the caving.
Oh, I mean, and I'll own it. Like, it was totally my fault. Like, I showed up. I didn't show up. I didn't show up for myself, and I didn't show up for my horse, and it created this whole thing. But it's, you know, it has to be that connection, right? All about that connection.
Yeah. And think about this. I just had the flashback of being a teenager, you know, when you got the lecture of something you were supposed to do, and the words were coming at you, but you didn't take it in. You just stopped there with a blank look and you nodded or whatever. There was no connection there to it. And so it wasn't getting through. And sometimes people will say, well, I want to go do this thing with my horse or that thing. Well, you don't have the communication and connection yet to do this consistently and successfully, you know?
Yeah.
And
I find that I have to connect to myself too, right?
Absolutely.
Like, if I'm not connected to myself, I can't authentically connect to the horse.
Absolutely.
And that's I mean, I love what you do. I absolutely love what you do. And I know that the reason you do it is for the horses, but I am very selfishly grateful that you do this, because it's been such a big deal for me.
Well, and I'm so eternally grateful for all the people that come here to Sacred Spaces and participate and do their best at this, because I'm going to say it's not easy. The concepts that I do are simple in theory. You know, sometimes people say, well, that's too simple, it couldn't possibly work. No, the horse doesn't want it to be complicated. The horse wants it to be simple. But unfortunately, we as humans don't believe something works unless it's complicated. And if it's not complicated, we will insert some complication into it so that it can make us feel good. And maybe that's partly of, if it's complicated and I can't get it, then I have an excuse for not getting it. And that's a really hard, sobering thing. It's like, well, I think I've told a few people, it's like, do you know how many times I sat on top of a tank and cried?
Yeah.
And because I didn't know what to do. And you get through it. You find your way through. And this is one of my big things that I want to stress too, is that because I had to find answers, because you find and you look for the answers when the level of discomfort is so great that you can't handle it anymore.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking that like sometimes when you're like, oh my gosh, I can't do this, you're right. Like, you can't do this. You have to become somebody else who can do this. And it's not that you're becoming a different person. I feel like you're becoming a more authentic version of you.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's like this invitation into becoming. Mm-hmm. And isn't that the gift, right? Like, I remember, like, I've had, you know, those moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, I do not want to have to become a different person in order to ride my horse. Like, this is ridiculous. I've had those moments where I'm just frustrated and I feel stuck. And then, you know, like you said, you sit with it and you let things work inside of you, and you let that horse reach you and guide you, and then you're so grateful. Like, you're so grateful. Like, oh my gosh, like this is so much better than I thought it would be, you know?
And I think this point that you just made is really important, because it's what I want to do for the horses, is I want to give them the opportunity to find their own answer. Because, and this is so hard, as some people will watch me, it's like, well, do something there. He's suffering, or he's, you know, he's very distressed. No, he's working it out and he's finding his answer. And I'm holding a space of safety and comfort for him to find that answer with encouragement and all of that helps you get through that place of your struggle, your personal struggle. And you should see when these horses find and come out the other end, and it can look kind of, you know, it looks hard and all this is as the horse struggles, and then they find their answer and they have their big release, and they almost look over sometimes like, did you see me do that? And
Yeah,
a lot of times,
proud of themselves.
right, and I'll be talking to somebody and the horse is like gesturing like, hey, look over here. Did you see what I just did? I'm like, yes, I saw that. That was awesome. So again, another positive reinforcement. Once you start having the conversation, that is so impactful for the horses and at an energetic level, because we're working with the body's own release of things like endorphins and oxytocin and different things like that. And that's what I'm working with, is the body's natural hormones and neurochemicals.
Well, and it's modeling a healthy relationship. You know, when we all have seen the parents that try to go in and like fix everything for their kid, right? Like, you need to do this, and I see that you're doing this wrong, so I'm going to fix this for you. And they leave that child feeling completely powerless.
Right.
Right. And it's unhealthy for the parent too, because, you know, they're taking their kid's power so they can feel powerful, right? Like, it's a power shift dynamic that is completely unhealthy, and it's unbalanced, and it's a powerless balance. And I find it just so extraordinary that you know, what you keep coming back to with the horses is just showing up as a powerful person and treating the horse like they are powerful, and they deserve just as much respect and autonomy as anybody else. And it's amazing.
Yeah. And it's definitely not for everybody. There's
sure.
And you know, that's become abundantly clear to me over the years. You know, it's getting easier and easier because more people are embracing some different ways of looking at the horse-human bond and how we interact with horses, and we're evolving. I think our horses are waiting for us to evolve. They're becoming more difficult in some ways, I think, so that we have to step up to the plate and start changing ourselves, because the old ways aren't working. The old things we used to do and they used to put up with, they're like, nah, you guys need to start leveling up here, guys.
You can do better.
You can do better. And we will help you with that. It may look a little tough on you sometimes, but we'll be over here making sure that we let you know when you got it right and when you didn't. And so I always say our horses are our best, our greatest cheerleaders and our biggest critics, you know. So, good or bad. Ooh, yeah. So, anyway.
I love it. Well, we're after 8. Is there anything else you wanted to say about like the courses that you're going to work on putting together? Or the
well, I don't want to promise anything, because you know how I've promised things in the past, and unbeknownst to me, it's gotten busier than I thought, and I usually get totally sidetracked down the way. But I am working on stuff. Nancy and I will keep you up to date on things that we're doing. I'm going to try to get onto the other platform to make things more consolidated for all of, because I've got things over here and over there and everywhere, and we'll get this going and hopefully streamline everything. And we will keep everyone up to date and perhaps have these conversations. I don't go into real specifics here, because as we speak in together in a class or as a one-on-one, then I can go into more detail. But what's the problem with that and just doing blanket things? There's a few things I can do. I've got a few principles that I teach that are pretty universal, but the horse's reactions to them are not universal. There's a wide range of things that can happen when you do these different principles. So I can't just say, do this, do that, do the other. No, it doesn't work that way. It's very experiential and it's very individualized. So we're not going to put horses in a box, and we're not going to put people in a box, and we're gonna, you know, which makes it all the more challenging, because
well, and that's why like people like need to meet with you. And I saw some people saying that they're hoping to make it to a clinic, and I mean, absolutely. Like I hosted a clinic so that I could, meet with Susie too. And I was really surprised. I did virtual clinics with her after the in-person clinics. and it was like there was no difference. Like I was astounded by how the connection it felt the same as with a virtual lesson as it was in person. It really was shocking for me. So if any of you guys are wanting to go to a clinic, like absolutely do go to a clinic if you can find one in your area. But don't hesitate to schedule a virtual session with Dr. Susie, because those have been just as profound. You know, my guided meditation that I did with you, that was like mind blowing. Like that was with you over virtual, and I've done numerous sessions with you, and they're just as profound. So
yeah. We shouldn't. I'm the advertisers, but don't call yet. I need to finish a couple things.
You can book them out.
Book them out. I'll have to book or block off some times for when I'm getting things done. So yeah, and we will put postings up of where all the sacred spaces gatherings, which used to be called clinics, but we'll call them gatherings to have a different feel to them. We'll post those on Facebook, and I'm getting finalized on some of these people where they're about ready to post their the gatherings. So there'll be a variety of places around the country. So I'm adding to this year that I'm going to do a demo day where I just demo some of the principles with some horses that are there. And so people can get a flavor for what I'm doing and experience it, give them a chance to go, I wouldn't want to do that with my horse in front of, no. My problem is this year, every clinic, every gathering, people that came last year are already rescheduling, and so they're filling up really quickly. So that's why I wanted to add this extra thing of, in case one is full, you could still come in and attend one of the demos and possibly schedule a private session, because some of the gatherings I have a day on one end or so that I can plug in a few private sessions with people, and probably if they're close to wherever the gathering is, I can go to their place. So
yeah.
And Kelly, they'll be on the website, and we'll probably announce them. I think we should announce them on Facebook
on the
also.
Facebook group too. Yeah, so, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there's my neighbor Jennifer Murray. It's so cool. Connie, hi. I haven't seen you forever. I'm glad you're here. This is what I love. It's like, when I see people's names come up, it's like, oh, I remember the time I spent with Connie and how much fun we had. And those are building memories and experiences is so important in our lives. Because if we just get in that place where we're just working and we're doing this thing, it's meaningless. And there's Judy. We've had some fun times. Like passing me off on the interstate in California to another car. It's like, here, you get to have her now. Like I'm getting in the car with people I had never met before, and they're passing me off on the highway at a rest stop. Like, here, you get to have her. And then they take me on a ride. So it's been a great ride, and I just love seeing everybody on here. Thank you guys so much. And I don't know how these work after they're done, but I think they're up for a while. Do you know, Nancy, how this works or anybody know how the lives work?
I know it's how it's supposed to work, but we'll see how it actually works.
Whether we can make it work the way it's supposed to or not. Isn't that funny? Through the internet challenges that I have, I go, I can so relate to the people when they go, but my horse is really good at home and nothing happens.
Oh my God.
It's like, yeah, my internet at home is great, and I don't have any problem with these programs, and then I get into another situation. So anyway, thank you all so much. Thank you, Nancy, for joining us, and we will look for another way that we can have somebody else on the screen too, instead of just my face sitting here talking. So nice to see you, Vicky, down in Florida. Yay. Okay. And so we shall sign off. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, everybody. And we will see you on Facebook.
Thank you, Dr. Susie.
Bye.
Thanks for all you do. Bye.